Daeun pressed her long fingers against the sensor console and watched the display screen flicker with small dots of light. Each dot was a star, each star was far away, and each one could hide danger or death. She had been watching these dots for 6 hours now, and her purple eyes felt tired. The bridge of the silent drift was quiet except for the soft hum of machines and the gentle breathing of her crewmates. The Velthari were proud people with tall, thin bodies and skin that changed color with their moods. Right now, Daeun's skin showed a calm blue color, but inside she felt restless. She was young for a sensor operator, only 23 cycles old, and this was her first real mission beyond the safe borders of Velthari space. Her antennae, which stuck out from her forehead like thin branches, twitched as they picked up the tiny energy signals that came from faraway places. Commander Hyunwoo stood at the center of the bridge with his arms crossed behind his back. His skin showed the deep green color of experience and authority. He had fought in 3 border wars and commanded ships for 15 years. The younger crew members looked up to him and trusted his decisions. His own antennae were thicker than Daeun's and scarred from an old battle injury. The Silent Drift was not a big ship. It carried only 12 crew members and was built for watching and listening, not for fighting. Its job was to patrol the neutral zone, the empty space between Velthari territory and the unknown regions beyond. Sometimes they found smugglers or pirates. Sometimes they found nothing at all. Today felt like another nothing day until Daeun's console made a soft beeping sound. She leaned forward and adjusted the controls. The beeping came again, stronger this time. Her antennae stood straight up as they detected something new, something that did not belong in the pattern she had been watching all day. "Commander," she called softly, "I have an unusual reading." Hyunwoo walked over to her station and looked at the display. His green skin darkened slightly as he concentrated. "What kind of reading?" "Energy signature, sir." "Unknown type. It appeared 3 minutes ago in Sector 77 Alpha." Daeun pointed at a specific area on her screen where a red dot pulsed slowly. "The computer cannot identify the source." Jin-ho, the weapons specialist, turned from his own console. His skin showed orange streaks of concern. "Could be a trap," he said. "Pirates sometimes use false signals to lure patrol ships into ambushes." Hyunwoo nodded but kept watching Daeun's screen. "Run a full spectrum analysis," he ordered. "I want to know everything about that signal." Daeun's fingers moved quickly across her controls. Numbers and symbols flowed across her display as the ship's computers worked to identify the mysterious energy source. The results made her antennae tremble with excitement and fear. "Sir, this is impossible." "Explain." "The energy pattern matches theoretical models in our database, but those models are for technology that should not exist." Daeun's voice was barely above a whisper. "According to the computer, this signature belongs to human propulsion systems." The bridge became very quiet. Even the machine sounds seemed softer. Jin-ho's skin turned pale yellow, the color of shock. The pilot, so young, stopped what she was doing and turned to stare at Daeun. Commander Hyunwoo's skin went completely dark green, almost black. Everyone in the galaxy knew about humans, but most people thought they were just stories. According to the tales, humans were the most dangerous warriors who ever lived. They built ships that could destroy planets and weapons that could kill stars. When humans went to war, entire fleets disappeared without leaving any traces. Some said humans could read minds and predict the future. Others claimed they could survive in the vacuum of space without protection. But humans had vanished from known space many years ago. Some people said they had destroyed themselves in a great war. Others believed they had traveled to distant galaxies to find new worlds to conquer. A few whispered that humans still existed somewhere in the dark, between stars, waiting for the right moment to return and claim the galaxy for themselves. "Are you certain about this reading?" Hyunwoo asked. Daeun checked her instruments twice before answering. "Yes, sir. The energy signature is a 97% match for theoretical human technology. But sir, the signal is weak and appears to be moving very slowly." "Moving how slowly?" "Barely faster than drift speed, Commander. If this is a human ship, something might be wrong with it." Jinho stood up from his weapons console. His skin now showed red stripes of anger mixed with fear. Commander, we should leave immediately. If there are humans in this sector, we need to warn the fleet. We are not equipped to fight them. So Young spoke for the first time since the discovery. Her voice was calm, but her skin showed purple patches of worry. What if the stories are not true? What if humans are not what we think they are? Hyunwoo walked to the main viewing screen and stared out at the stars. His reflection looked back at him from the dark glass. He had heard the human stories since he was a child. His own grandfather had claimed to see a human ship once, far away, and moving like lightning between the stars. But his grandfather had also told many stories that were probably not true. Daun, how far away is the signal source? 2 hours at current speed, sir. Jinho, what is the status of our weapons and shields? All systems ready, Commander. But if the stories about human technology are true, our weapons will not help us. Hyunwoo turned away from the viewing screen and looked at his crew. They were young and brave, but they had never faced anything like this before. Neither had he. In all his years of command, he had fought pirates and smugglers and once even a small fleet of raiders. But humans were different. Humans were legend and nightmare combined into one terrible possibility. But he was also curious. If humans were real, if they truly existed, then this might be the discovery of a lifetime. The Velthari High Command would want to know about any human presence in their territory, and if something was wrong with the human ship, if it was damaged or in trouble, then maybe they could learn something valuable about human technology. Set course for the signal source, he ordered. Quarter speed, maximum stealth mode. Jinho's skin flashed bright red. Sir, with respect, this could be suicide. It could also be the most important discovery in galactic history, Hyunwoo replied. We are scouts, Jinho. Our job is to investigate the unknown and report what we find. If we run away from every strange signal, we are not doing our duty. Dawn felt her skin changing to excited yellow colors despite her fear. She had joined the scouts because she wanted adventure and discovery. This was certainly both. Her antennae continued to track the mysterious signal as the silent drift changed course and began moving toward whatever waited for them in the darkness of space. So Young activated the stealth systems and the ship seemed to fade into the background of space. Their energy signature became almost invisible, and their movement created no detectable disturbances. If something was watching for them, it would be very hard to see them coming. As they traveled toward the unknown signal, Daun continued to monitor her instruments. The energy signature remained weak and steady. Whatever was producing it did not seem to be trying to hide or escape. In fact, it appeared to be drifting aimlessly through space like a piece of debris. Commander, she reported after an hour of travel, I am detecting additional details about the signal source. It appears to be a small vessel, possibly a scout ship or courier. The energy output suggests minimal power systems operating, perhaps only life support and basic navigation. Hyunwoo nodded grimly. Continue monitoring. Alert me immediately if anything changes. The next hour passed slowly as the silent drift crept through space toward its mysterious target. Each crew member dealt with their fear and excitement in their own way. Jinho checked and rechecked his weapons systems. So Young practiced emergency maneuvers in her head. Daun watched her screens and tried to learn everything possible about the strange signal. Finally, her console showed that they were close enough for visual contact. Commander, we should be able to see the source vessel on the main screen now. Hyunwoo ordered maximum magnification on the viewing screen. What they saw there would change everything they thought they knew about humans and the galaxy itself. The image on the viewing screen made everyone on the bridge hold their breath. The ship floating in space before them was unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was smaller than the silent drift, perhaps half the size, but its design spoke of purpose and efficiency. The hull was dark gray metal with smooth curves that seemed to flow like water from front to back. Strange markings covered its surface, symbols that looked both beautiful and somehow threatening at the same time. Dayun stared at the alien vessel and felt her skin change to bright yellow with excitement. Commander, I am reading 3 life signs aboard that ship. The signals are very weak, but they are definitely alive. What species? Hyunwoo asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Unknown, sir. The biological patterns do not match anything in our database. Taeyun paused and checked her readings again. But the ship's energy signature confirms human origin. Those markings on the hull appear to be human writing. Jin-ho leaned forward and squinted at the viewing screen. It looks damaged. See those dark patches on the side? Those could be burn marks from weapon hits. So Young nodded and pointed to another area of the strange ship. The rear section shows signs of emergency repairs. Whatever happened to them, they barely escaped. Commander Hyunwoo studied the vessel carefully. This was not what he had expected to find. The stories told of massive human warships that could destroy entire fleets. This small damaged ship looked more like a refugee vessel than a weapon of war. But appearances could be deceiving, especially when dealing with humans. Taeyun, scan for weapon systems. Her antennae twitched as she adjusted her sensors for a deeper scan. I detect some kind of defensive system, sir, but they appear to be offline. The ship is running on emergency power only. Main engines are cold, weapons are dark, shields are down. It could be a trap, Jin-ho said for the second time that day. Humans are supposed to be very clever. Maybe they want us to think their ship is helpless. Hyunwoo considered this possibility. The human reputation for cunning was almost as great as their reputation for military power. But if this was a trap, it was a very convincing one. The damage to the ship looked real, and the weak life sign suggested the crew was in serious trouble. So Young, take us closer. Stay ready to jump to faster than light speed if anything happens. The silent drift moved slowly toward the human vessel. As they got closer, more details became visible on the viewing screen. The ship's name was painted on its side in human letters that Da-eun's computer translated as Taeguk. The hull showed many small dents and scratches that suggested a long journey through dangerous space. Commander, Da-eun reported, I am detecting a distress beacon. Very weak signal. Probably has been broadcasting for a long time. The message is in human language. Can you translate it? Da-eun worked with her computer for several minutes before answering. The message is simple, sir. It says, help us. Ship damaged. Crew in emergency sleep. Please help. Jin-ho's skin turned orange with suspicion. That message could be bait. Humans could be pretending to need help to draw us close enough to attack. But So Young shook her head. Look at the ship, Jin-ho. Really look at it. This vessel has been drifting for a long time. The damage is real, the power levels are critical, and those life signs are getting weaker. If this is a trick, the humans are willing to die to make it convincing. Hyunwoo made a decision that would change the fate of everyone aboard both ships. Prepare a boarding party. We are going to investigate that vessel. Jin-ho stood up so quickly his chair spun around. Sir, I must protest. This is too dangerous. We should return to base and report what we have found. Let the fleet decide what to do about humans. By the time we return with a fleet, those three beings could be dead, Hyunwoo replied, and their ship might drift away or be found by someone else. This is our chance to learn the truth about humans. We may never get another opportunity like this. Da-eun felt excited and terrified at the same time. She had never seen a human before, had never even been sure they really existed. Now she might actually meet one face to face. Her antennae quivered with anticipation. Who will go aboard their ship? So Young asked. You, me, Da-eun, and Jin-ho, Hyunwoo answered. We need a pilot, a sensor specialist, a weapons expert, and a commander. Dong-sik will stay here and monitor our mission from the bridge. Dong-sik was the ship's engineer, a quiet older male who rarely spoke but kept all their systems running perfectly. He nodded when he heard his name and moved to take the commander's position. The boarding party spent an hour preparing for their mission. They put on protective suits that would let them breathe in different atmospheres and protect them from dangerous radiation. Jin-ho checked their portable weapons and made sure everyone knew how to use them. Da-eun packed her portable scanner so she could study human technology up close. So Young piloted their small shuttle across the empty space between the two ships. The human vessel looked even more damaged when seen from close range. Holes in The hull had been patched with emergency materials. Burn marks covered large sections of the outer surface. This ship had been through a terrible battle and barely survived. "I'm detecting an airlock on the port side," Doan reported from her scanner. "The mechanism appears to be compatible with our docking systems. Any signs of activity inside the ship?" "Negative, sir. The 3 life signs remain steady but weak. All other systems show minimal activity." So Young carefully guided their shuttle to the human airlock and connected the docking tubes. The mechanical sounds of the 2 ships joining together echoed through their small vessel. When the connection was complete and sealed, she checked the atmosphere beyond the airlock. "Air mixture is breathable for us," she announced. "Temperature is cold but acceptable. No dangerous radiation detected." Hyun-woo checked his weapon one more time and looked at his team. "Remember, we know almost nothing about humans except stories. That may not be true. Stay alert, stay together, and be ready for anything." They opened the airlock and stepped into the human ship. The first thing they noticed was how different everything looked. Where Velthari ships had curved walls and organic shapes, this vessel was all straight lines and sharp angles. The metal surfaces were smooth and cold to touch. Strange symbols and markings covered the walls, probably human writing or technical information. The artificial gravity was slightly stronger than they were used to, making each step feel heavy. The air smelled different too, with unfamiliar chemical traces that suggested a different kind of life support system. Emergency lighting cast red shadows that made everything look mysterious and threatening. "This way," Da-un whispered, following her scanner readings toward the life signs. "The crew appears to be in a chamber near the center of the ship." They moved carefully through narrow corridors lined with pipes and cables. Everything was built for efficiency rather than comfort. This was clearly a working vessel, not a luxury. Transport. The walls showed signs of emergency repairs in several places, confirming that the ship had suffered serious damage. Jin-ho kept his weapon ready and checked every corner they passed. "The design is definitely military," he observed. "This is a scout ship or courier built for speed and stealth rather than heavy combat." They found the chamber containing the 3 life signs behind a door marked with human symbols. Da-yun's scanner confirmed that living beings waited beyond that barrier. Hyun-woo placed his hand on the door control and looked back at his team one more time. "Ready?" They all nodded. Though their skin colors showed varying degrees of fear and excitement, Hyun-woo pressed the control and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Beyond it lay a small room containing 3 sleeping chambers that looked like metal coffins with windows on top. Inside each chamber, clearly visible through the transparent covers, lay a human being. Da-un gasped and stepped closer to get a better look. The humans looked nothing like the monsters from the scary stories. They were smaller than Velthari, with pale skin and strange hair covering their heads. Their faces seemed peaceful in sleep, almost innocent. These could not be the terrible warriors who destroyed entire fleets and conquered star systems. But appearances could be deceiving, and Da-un knew that the most dangerous beings often looked harmless until they revealed their true nature. The next few hours would determine whether the legends about humans were true or false, and whether the galaxy would gain new allies or face its greatest threat. Da-un approached the first sleeping chamber and stared down at the human inside. The being was male, she thought, based on the broader shoulders and angular face. His skin was pale with a slight pink color, and dark hair covered the top of his head. Most strange of all, he had no antennae, no skin that changed color, no obvious way to sense emotions or energy fields. He looked almost primitive compared to Velthari biology. How can they navigate space without proper sensory organs? She whispered to herself. Jin-ho stayed near the door with his weapon ready, while So-young examined the sleeping chamber's control systems. "These machines are keeping them alive," So-young reported. "Their bodies are in some kind of emergency hibernation. Without these systems, they would die within hours." Commander Hyun-woo looked at each of the 3 humans in turn. The first was the male Da-un had been studying. The second chamber held another male, younger-looking with lighter hair and softer features. The third contained a female with long dark hair and a face that somehow looked both gentle and determined at the same time. "Can we wake them safely?" Hyun-woo asked. So Young studied the chamber controls and checked her portable medical scanner. I think so, sir. These systems are different from ours, but the basic principles are the same. However, I recommend we return them to our ship first. Our medical bay would be safer for the revival process. That would mean taking humans aboard our vessel, Jinho said nervously. Are we certain this is wise? Daun had moved to a computer terminal near the sleeping chambers and was trying to access the ship's data systems. Commander, I think I can retrieve information from their computers. This might tell us what happened to them and whether they are dangerous. Do it, Hyunwoo ordered. Da-Eun connected her portable scanner to the human computer and began the careful process of accessing their data files. The human technology was different from Velthari systems, but not impossibly advanced. In fact, some aspects seemed surprisingly simple and direct compared to what she was used to working with. After 20 minutes of work, she managed to open several data files. Sir, I have accessed their ship's log and personal records. This is very interesting. What did you find? This ship is called the Taeguk. The crew consists of 3 humans named Ki-Tai, Yejin, and Dongmin. Da-Eun pointed to each sleeping chamber as she spoke their names. According to their records, they are scouts from a hidden human colony searching for other human survivors. Jinho's weapon drooped slightly as he heard this. Survivors? Survivors of what? Da-Eun continued, reading from the data files, her voice growing more excited as she discovered each new piece of information. Commander, according to these records, humans are not the conquering warriors we believed them to be. They are refugees. Explain. 15 years ago, something called the Silence attacked human space. The logs describe massive black ships that consumed entire planets and left nothing behind. Humans fought desperately to defend their worlds, but they could not stop this enemy. Most human colonies were destroyed or abandoned. So Young looked up from her examination of the sleeping chambers. That would explain why no one has seen humans for so long. They were not hiding because they were planning to attack others. They were hiding because they were nearly extinct. Da-Eun kept reading through the data files and found more disturbing information. These 3 humans have been searching for survivors for 2 years. They have found only empty colonies and destroyed worlds. According to their estimates, fewer than 10,000 humans remain alive in the entire galaxy. Hyunwoo felt his worldview shifting as he learned the truth about humanity. What about their military reputation? The stories of unstoppable human fleets? Those stories were true, sir, but not in the way we thought. Humans did destroy entire enemy fleets during their war with the Silence, but they were fighting a desperate, defensive action. Every battle was an attempt to buy time for civilian evacuations. The human military threw everything they had at the Silence forces, knowing they would probably die in the process. The small chamber fell silent as the Velthari crew absorbed this information. The legendary human war machine had not been built for conquest, but for survival. The terrible weapons and unstoppable tactics had been the desperate acts of a dying species trying to save their people. There is more, Da-Eun continued. 3 weeks ago, this ship encountered a Silence patrol vessel near the outer rim. They barely escaped, but their ship was badly damaged. They put themselves into emergency hibernation to survive until rescue could arrive. Jinho finally lowered his weapon completely. So they were not hunting us. They were running from something. Worse. Much worse, Da-Eun confirmed as she read more data files. Commander, the Silence is not just a threat to humans. According to these records, they consume all forms of life. If they have followed the humans into our galaxy, they will eventually find and attack every inhabited world, including Velthari space. Hyunwoo walked to the chamber containing the human female, Yejin, according to the records. Her peaceful face showed no sign of the horrors she had witnessed, or the desperate flight that had brought her ship here. So young, how quickly can we move them to our medical bay? Within the hour, sir. The sleeping chambers appear to be portable. We can transfer them intact and begin the revival process safely aboard our ship. Do it. Jinho, help her prepare the chambers for transport. Da-Eun, copy everything you can from their computer systems. We need all the information they have about this Silence threat. The next 2 hours were busy as the Velthari crew worked to save their unexpected guests. The sleeping chambers were carefully disconnected from the Teguk's failing power systems and moved to the silent drift. So Young set up a special area in their medical bay where the humans could be revived safely. Yun, meanwhile, copied vast amounts of data from the human ship's computers. She found technical specifications for human weapons and ships, tactical reports from battles with the Silence, and personal logs from dozens of human refugees describing the destruction of their worlds. The more she read, the more she understood that humans were not the monsters from scary stories but ordinary people who had faced extraordinary circumstances. They had families and friends, hopes and fears just like any other species. The only thing that made them special was their refusal to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. "Commander," she called from her position at the human computer terminal, "I have found something very important. The humans have detailed sensor records of Silence technology and tactics. This information could be vital for defending against them. Download everything," Hyunwoo ordered. "We will need all of it when we report to the High Command." When the transfer was complete, they sealed the Taeguk and returned to their own ship. The 3 sleeping humans were installed in the medical bay where So Young could monitor their condition carefully. Their chambers hummed quietly as the revival process began slowly and safely. "How long before they wake up?" Hyunwoo asked. "Several hours, sir. Their bodies have been in hibernation for weeks. The revival process must be gradual to avoid shock or damage." Daun spent the waiting time studying the human data files she had copied. Each new piece of information painted a clearer picture of what had happened to humanity and what might be coming for the rest of the galaxy. The Silence was unlike any enemy anyone had ever faced before. They did not want territory or resources or slaves. They simply consumed everything in their path and moved on to find more life to devour. But humans had fought them and survived, at least in small numbers. That meant the Silence could be resisted. Human tactics and technology might be the key to defending the galaxy against this terrible threat. As the hours passed, Dayun found herself looking forward to meeting the first humans she had ever seen awake. Would they be the frightening warriors from the stories? Or would they be something entirely different? Soon she would know the answer. The revival chambers began showing increased activity as the humans slowly returned to consciousness. So Young monitored their vital signs carefully and made small adjustments to ensure their safety. Finally, after what seemed like forever, the first chamber signaled that its occupant was ready to wake up. "Commander," So Young announced, "the male in Chamber 1 is beginning to regain consciousness. You should be here when he wakes up." Hyunwoo hurried to the medical bay, followed by Da-un and Jinho. They gathered around the chamber as the transparent cover slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the human named Dongmin slowly opened his eyes and looked up at the Velthari faces staring down at him. His reaction would determine whether this first contact between their species would lead to friendship or fear. Dongmin's eyes opened slowly and focused on the strange faces looking down at him. For a moment, confusion filled his expression as he tried to understand where he was and who these tall, thin beings with changing skin colors might be. Then, memory returned and his body tensed with fear and alertness. He tried to sit up quickly, but So Young gently pressed him back down. "Please remain still," she said in careful human language that Da-un's computer translated for her. "You are safe. We rescued you from your damaged ship." Dongmin's eyes darted from one Velthari face to another, clearly trying to assess the threat they might represent. His hand moved instinctively toward where his weapon should have been, but found nothing. "Where are my crew?" he demanded, his voice rough from the long hibernation. "They are here and safe," Commander Hyunwoo replied through the translation system. "We are reviving them as well. You have been in emergency sleep for several weeks. Who are you? What species?" Dongmin's voice carried the wary tone of someone who had learned not to trust strangers in a dangerous galaxy. "We are Velthari. I am Commander Hyunwoo of the scout vessel Silent Drift. This is our medical officer, So Young, our sensor specialist, Dayun, and our weapons officer, Jinho." Each crew member nodded as their name was spoken. Dongmin studied their faces carefully, looking for signs of deception or hostility. I have never heard of your species. Are you allied with the Silence? The question made all four Velthari react with alarm. Their skin color shifted to worried purples and oranges as they realized what the human was thinking. No, Hyunwoo said firmly. We have never encountered this Silence you speak of. We found your ship drifting in space and detected your distress signal. Relief showed clearly on Dongmin's face, though he remained cautious. Then you do not know what is coming. You do not know the danger that follows in our wake. Dayun stepped forward, her skin showing excited yellow patches. We have read some of your ship's data files. We know about the attack on human space and your people's flight from this Silence enemy, but we need to hear the truth from you. Dongmin looked at her with surprise. You accessed our computers? Only to understand your situation and determine if you were a threat, Hyunwoo explained. What we learned changed everything we thought we knew about humans. What did you think you knew about us? Jin-ho answered this question, his skin showing embarrassed orange streaks. We believed humans were unstoppable warriors who conquered entire star systems. The story said your fleets could destroy anything, and your technology was beyond all understanding. A bitter laugh escaped from Dongmin's throat. Unstoppable warriors, if only that were true. We could not stop the Silence from destroying our worlds. We could not save our families or our civilization. Some warriors we turned out to be. So Young checked her medical scanner and announced that the second human was ready to wake up. The chamber containing Kitai opened, and the younger human slowly regained consciousness. His reaction was similar to Dongmin's, starting with confusion and moving quickly to defensive alertness. Dongmin spoke to Kitai in their own language, apparently explaining the situation and identifying their rescuers as friendly. Kitai relaxed, slightly, but kept watching the Velthari with careful attention. How long have we been asleep? Kitai asked through the translation system. According to your ship's chronometer, 26 days, Daun replied. Your vessel was badly damaged and running on emergency power only. Without our intervention, your life support would have failed within hours. Kitai struggled to sit up, and this time, So Young allowed it. 26 days. The trail will be completely cold by now. We will never find the other survivor groups. What other survivors? Hyunwoo asked. Dongmin explained while helping Kitai out of his revival chamber. When the Silence attacked our core worlds, the government organized evacuation fleets. Thousands of ships carried refugees to hidden colonies in unexplored space. But the fleets scattered to avoid being tracked. We have been searching for 2 years, trying to find and unite the scattered human populations. The third chamber opened, and Yejin began waking up. She was the most cautious of the 3 humans, studying each Velthari face with intelligent eyes that seemed to see everything. When Dongmin explained their situation to her, she asked several sharp questions about Velthari intentions and capabilities. You said you read our computer files, she said to Daun. How much do you know about the Silence? Enough to understand that they represent a threat to all life in the galaxy, not just humans, Daun replied. Your records describe an enemy that consumes planets and leaves nothing behind. Yejin nodded grimly. That is correct. They are not interested in conquest or resources or territory. They simply devour everything living and move on to find more. Worlds that took millions of years to develop complex ecosystems become empty rocks in a matter of days. Kitai added more details about their terrible enemy. Silent ships are massive and black, absorbing all light that hits them. They use weapons we do not understand to strip away the atmosphere and surface of planets. Then they deploy machines that harvest all organic matter and transport it to their motherships. Where do they come from? Jin-ho asked. Outside our galaxy, Dongmin answered. They appeared suddenly in the Outer Rim territories 15 years ago and swept through human space like a plague. By the time we understood what we were facing, half our worlds were already gone. So Young ran medical scans on all 3 humans and announced that they were healthy despite their ordeal. Your species is remarkably adaptable, she observed. The emergency hibernation caused no permanent damage. Humans are good at surviving impossible situations, Yejin said with pride. It may be our only real talent, but it has served us well. The 3 humans were given food and water while they recovered their strength. Velthari food was not ideal for human biology, but their emergency rations were compatible enough to sustain them. As they ate, they shared more details about their long flight from the silence and their desperate search for survivors. We have found 7 scattered groups in 2 years, Kite reported. Maybe 3,000 people total. There are probably other groups still hiding, but they could be anywhere in the galaxy. What about your military? Yunwu asked. The stories speak of powerful human fleets. Dongmin's expression became sad and distant. The fleet fought a series of delaying actions to give the evacuation ships time to escape. They knew it was suicide, but they did it anyway. Ship after ship threw themselves at the silence forces, buying precious hours for civilian refugees. That is where the stories of unstoppable human warriors came from, Yejin explained. Our fleet captains performed impossible feats of courage and skill. Single ships held off entire silence squadrons. Damaged vessels rammed enemy motherships, rather than retreat. The galaxy had never seen such desperate heroism. But in the end, it was not enough. Kite added quietly. The silence had too many ships and too much firepower. Our fleet was destroyed and our worlds were consumed. Da-un felt her skin changing to sympathetic blue colors as she listened to their story. These humans had faced the ultimate nightmare and somehow survived to keep fighting. Their reputation for being unstoppable was earned not through conquest but through their refusal to surrender even in the face of extinction. You said the silence followed you, Hyunwoo noted with concern. Do you believe they have entered this part of the galaxy? The 3 humans exchanged worried glances before Yejin answered. 3 weeks ago, we encountered a silent scout vessel near the Galactic Rim. It damaged our ship before we escaped, but it did not pursue us. Scout vessels usually mean a larger force is coming later. How much time do we have? Jinho asked. Unknown, Dongmin replied. The silence moves slowly but steadily. They could arrive in this sector in months or years, but they will come eventually, and when they do, every world in their path will be consumed. The medical bay fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications of this threat. The Velthari had always believed themselves to be among the most powerful species in the galaxy. Their fleets were strong and their technology was advanced. But if the silence could destroy human civilization, they could certainly destroy Velthari space as well. We must warn our government, Hyunwoo decided. The High Command needs to know about this threat. Yejin looked at him with desperate hope. Will they listen? Will they help us prepare defenses? I do not know, Hyunwoo admitted. But we must try. The alternative is too terrible to consider. Da-un had an idea that might make the difference. Commander, what if we brought these humans with us? Their knowledge of silence tactics and technology could convince the High Command that the threat is real. The 3 humans looked at each other and held a quick conversation in their own language. Finally, Dongmin turned back to the Velthari. We will come with you and share everything we know, but in return we ask for your help in finding the other human survivors. If the silence is coming, we need to unite our people and prepare for the final battle. Hyunwoo extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement that Da-un's computer had taught him. Agreed. We will help each other survive what is coming. The journey to SciFiPrime took 3 days, and during that time the 2 species learned much about each other. Da-un spent hours with Yejin, comparing their different approaches to sensor technology and navigation. She discovered that humans relied heavily on mathematical calculations and computer modeling, where Velthari used their natural sensory abilities to feel energy patterns directly. Your antennae can detect quantum fluctuations, Yejin said with amazement, as Da-un demonstrated her abilities. That is incredible. Humans must use complex instruments to measure what you can sense naturally. But your mathematical models are much more precise than our instincts, Da-un replied. You can predict stellar phenomena years in advance while we can only sense what is happening in the present moment. Kite worked with So Young and the ship's engineer Dongsik to study the differences between human and Velthari technology. Human systems were built for reliability and ease of repair, designed by a species that often had to fix things under dangerous conditions. Velthari technology was more elegant and efficient, created by beings who valued harmony and balance. Your power systems integrate seamlessly with your ship's structure, Kite observed. Everything works together like a living organism. Human ships are more like machines built from separate parts. Jinho found himself talking with Dongmin about military tactics and strategy. The human commander shared detailed accounts of battles against the Silence, describing both victories and defeats with equal honesty. Jinho was struck by the human approach to warfare, which emphasized adaptability and sacrifice over raw firepower. Velthari, tactics focus on maintaining formation and coordinated attacks, Jinho explained. We fight as a unified force with each ship supporting the others. That approach will not work against the Silence, Dongmin warned. Their weapons can disable multiple ships simultaneously. Human tactics evolved to use individual initiative and unpredictable maneuvers. Every ship had to be ready to act alone when the formation broke apart. Commander Hyunwoo spent much of the journey preparing his report for the High Command. This would be the most important presentation of his career, and possibly the most important message ever delivered to Velthari: leadership. The fate of their entire civilization might depend on how well he could convince the Council that the Silence threat was real and immediate. The three humans helped him understand the technical details of Silence technology and tactics. They shared video recordings of battles, sensor data from encounters, and intelligence reports about enemy capabilities. The evidence was overwhelming, but Hyunwoo worried that the High Command might dismiss it as human deception or exaggeration. Your leaders will not want to believe this threat exists, Yejin observed during one of their planning sessions. No species wants to hear that their military might be inadequate against an enemy they have never faced. Velthari pride runs very deep, Hyunwoo admitted. We have dominated this sector of space for thousands of years. Many commanders believe our forces are invincible. Dongmin laughed bitterly at this. Humans believed the same thing once. We thought our technology and our courage could overcome any challenge. The Silence taught us how wrong we were. When they finally reached SciFiPrime, the sight of the massive planet and its orbital defense stations filled the humans with awe. Hundreds of warships patrolled the system in perfect formations. Enormous space stations hosted millions of Velthari citizens. This was clearly a civilization at the height of its power and confidence. Your people have built something magnificent here, Kaite said as he watched the activity on the viewing screen. I hope we can help you preserve it. The silent drift was directed to a military docking facility, where security officers waited, to escort them to the high command chambers. The three humans were given simple clothing to replace their damaged uniforms, and Da-Un helped them practice basic Velthari customs to avoid giving offense during the crucial meeting. The High Command chamber was a vast circular room with seats arranged in tiers around a central speaking platform. 50 of the most senior Velthari military leaders filled the seats, their skin color showing various shades of skepticism and curiosity. At the center sat Grand Admiral Taeyeon, an ancient female whose dark green skin was marked with the scars of many battles. Hyunwoo presented his report with careful precision, describing the discovery of the human ship and the information they had gathered about the Silence threat. He showed sensor readings, computer data, and video recordings that documented the terrible enemy approaching their galaxy. Some council members listened with growing alarm, but others remained skeptical. Admiral Moon-soo, a proud male known for his aggressive tactics, stood to voice his doubts. This could all be an elaborate deception. Humans might be trying to trick us into weakening our defenses so they can attack us themselves. Yejin requested permission to speak and was granted it after some debate. She stepped onto the central platform and looked around at the assembled leaders with calm confidence. Honorable Velthari commanders, I understand your suspicion. Any Y species would question the motives of strangers bearing warnings of disaster. Her translator rendered her words into perfect Velthari, and her sincere tone impressed many of the listeners. But consider this. If humans wanted to attack your territory, why would we send 3 refugees in a damaged scout ship? Why would We reveal our location and our weakness to you? Admiral Moonsu was not convinced. Perhaps you are advanced scouts for a larger force. Perhaps this talk of the silence is meant to distract us from the real threat. Dongmin joined Yejin on the platform and activated a portable display device. Admiral, with your permission, I would like to show you something that might change your mind. The display projected a three-dimensional image of a human world called New Sol. The planet was green and blue, covered with cities and farmland where millions of people had lived and worked. Then the image changed to show the same world after a silence attack. Nothing remained but a gray, lifeless rock orbiting a dying star. This was my home, Dongmin said quietly. My wife and children lived in the capital city. My parents had a farm in the northern continent. When the silence came, it took them 4 hours to strip away everything that had taken centuries to build. The chamber became very quiet as the assembled leaders absorbed the implications of what they were seeing. More images followed, showing world after world reduced to empty husks by the approaching enemy. The evidence was too detailed and too consistent to be fabricated. Grand Admiral Tae-Yon finally spoke, her ancient voice carrying the weight of centuries of experience. Young humans, if this threat is real, why do you come to us? Why not seek help from your own kind? Kaite answered this question with painful honesty. Because there are not enough of us left to matter, honored Admiral. Human civilization is broken and scattered. We have perhaps 10,000 survivors hiding in the darkness between stars. Even if we could unite them all, it would not be enough to stop the silence. But together, Yejin added, humans and Velthari might have a chance. Human knowledge of silence tactics combined with Velthari military strength could create a defense that neither species could manage alone. The debate continued for hours as council members argued about the proper response to this unprecedented situation. Some demanded immediate military mobilization, while others insisted on further investigation. A few suggested abandoning this part of the galaxy entirely and fleeing to distant star systems. Daeun was allowed to present the technical data she had gathered from the human ship's computers. Her analysis showed clear evidence of silent scout activity near the galactic rim, confirming that the enemy was already probing the edges of known space. Finally, Grand Admiral Tae-Yon called for order and announced her decision. The evidence presented today is compelling, though disturbing. We cannot ignore the possibility that this silence represents a genuine threat to all life in our galaxy. She stood and walked to the central platform where the humans waited. We will begin immediate preparations for the defense of Velthari space, but more importantly, we will work with human survivors to create a united front against this enemy. If the silence believes it can devour our worlds as easily as it consumed yours, it will learn the meaning of true resistance. The chamber erupted in discussion as commanders began planning the greatest military mobilization in Velthari history. Orders went out to recall all deep space patrols and begin fortifying key star systems. Research teams were assigned to study human anti-silence technology and adapt it for Velthari use. But the most important decision was the one Grand Admiral Tae-Yon announced privately to Hyunwoo and his crew. Commander, you and your team will work directly with these humans to locate and unite their scattered survivors. Every human ship and every piece of human knowledge will be needed for what is coming. Daeun felt her skin change to excited yellow as she realized what this meant. Sir, are you saying we will be searching for human refugees across the galaxy? That is exactly what I am saying, young censor officer, and when we find them, we will offer them something they have not had for 15 years. A new home and allies willing to stand with them against the darkness.